James. Okay, flip over onto page 15 if you're not already there. And I want you to hold on to these little coins. We're going to use them later on. We know that we have a central nervous system. It's the most complex electrical system known to man. So there's stuff going on inside of us all the time that we don't necessarily understand. These two concepts, paradigms and cybernetics, they're control systems that operate essentially on the same principle. Both maintain a definite course of action, and they won't deviate from that course that's been established. You have to alter the paradigm if you desire to achieve improved results. Both companies and individuals have paradigms. You'll see a company, they get stuck and they're staying the same. You'll often see the sales in a department or in a company stay exactly the same. Doesn't matter what you do, they may have a good week, but then they'll have a bad week, and the sales stay much the same. Well, we have to understand that there's group paradigms. Culture is a paradigm. Culture is nothing but group habit. Cybernetics is your system in your home for your controlling the temperature. You set the thermostat, and then everything else operates automatically. If you're in cold weather, and let's say you have the temperature set around 70, and all of a sudden you start to feel cold, and you go and look and the temperature's dropped to 64, you start to investigate, you think, what's wrong? Somebody left a door open. You close the door, the thermostat measures the deviation from the set goal, which is 70. You've gone down to 64. It sends a message to the furnace. The fire's turned on, the fan's turned on, it blows heat up until you get up to 70, and then it cuts it off. It's all done. It's a cybernetic mechanism. It's like an automatic pilot on a plane. If the plane goes off course, the automatic pilot brings it back on course. I like the way Price Pritchett put it in his U Square book. He said rockets fail their way to the moon. They're off course 90-some% of the time. It's correct. And that's the way we are. If we deviate from this program, it's correct. And so we stay much the same. If you live with someone, you could pretty well write a book about what they're doing. And they very rarely change their patterns. They stay much the same. And you don't wonder if it's going to be different. You know it's going to be much the same. Now, when a person changes, it's generally pretty big change. They've shifted the paradigm somehow or another. Most people are not aware of what they're doing, but they change it. Now, I changed the paradigm. I made a dramatic change in my paradigm. Where I went, as I said, from $4,000 a year to $14,500 a month, and then it kept going up. And I really didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what caused it. And I didn't bother trying to figure it out for quite a while, because it kept getting better, and I was enjoying the better part of it. But one day, I took a look at how I was living, and I thought, I'm not being very responsible. I was living in England, and I just go down to Playboy and play roulette. I didn't care if I lost it, because I knew where it was. And because I didn't care if I lost it, I usually won it. Now, and I thought, I'm really not being very responsible. But I couldn't find anybody that could tell me why I changed or how I changed. And I decided I was going to figure it out. Now, I knew I wasn't lucky. I didn't believe in luck. I read where Voltaire said we invented that word to express known effects of unknown causes. There's no such thing as luck in an ordinary universe. I've been raised to believe that if you're going to earn a lot of money, you got to be really smart. I knew I wasn't that smart, but I was earning a lot of money. You don't have to be very smart to earn a lot of money. You just have to follow certain rules and you'll earn the money. You could be the dumbest guy in town and earn the most money. You don't have to be smart to earn a lot of money. I was raised to believe if you don't have a good education, you won't get a good job. I didn't have an education. I didn't have a good job. I owned the whole company. So you see, I was in a very confusing position. And I couldn't figure out why I changed. And so I made up my mind I was going to figure it out. Well, it took me 9.5 years. And when I did figure it out, then all I wanted to do was teach it. So I learned something most people never know. And it was just because I wouldn't stop studying. I just kept studying. I found it fascinating. And I changed because I kept reading this book. I'd read the same book every day, over and over and again. And I was listening to recordings. I had a little battery-operated record player. And in fact, I brought it with me for another purpose, but I'll show it to you before we're finished. And I'd walk around with this record player playing a record. And I kept playing the same record over and over and over. It was Earl Nightingale's Strangest Secret record, and he also had condensed and narrated Think and Grow Rich. And I'd listen to that. And I kept listening because it was so fascinating. I never heard people talk like that. Where I come from, nobody talked that way. And it was all the rules for winning. It was all plugged in. And it was because I kept doing it, it was the repetition that caused the change. Now, you see, repetition is illogical. Yet it doesn't make sense to read the same book over and over again. In fact, my sister had a friend, Pat. Pat was a reader. She's gone now, God bless her, but I think she read everything in the Beaches Library in Toronto. She just always had books. And when I started to read this book, my sister said, Bob started reading books. She said, really? So when she saw me, she says, I heard you started to read. I said, yeah. She said, what are you reading? And I said, Think and Grow Rich. She said, I never heard of that. I said, it's a good book. Well, I don't know, weeks or a month later, she'd say, are you still reading? Yeah. She said, what are you reading now? And I said, Think and Grow Rich. I didn't think it was odd, but she looked at me like I was saying, are you still reading the same book? See, it didn't make any sense to her to read the same book. You read it once, that's it, you got it. That's what school taught us. School didn't teach us how to internalize it. See, no amount of reading or memorizing is going to make you successful. It's the understanding and application of wise thoughts that count. So we can keep reading, yet if we answer the questions properly, we get the degrees, and we think we've got it made. We're pretty smart. But our behavior hasn't changed. So you can keep gathering information, but that doesn't change the paradigm. The paradigm's in the subconscious mind. The intellect's in the conscious. And so this paradigm concept is pretty powerful. To be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change the paradigm. Now you see, we're all able, but we're not all willing. We're not all willing to study the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. I mentioned about Phil Goldfine. He came to see me. He'd heard about me, and he phoned and he wanted to come and see me. That was 20 years ago. Every time I'm doing a seminar, he's here. I tell him to take a book and study this book. He studies it. I was talking to him yesterday, and I was telling him about this one piece of literature I'm reading. I had it on my phone, so I sent it to him. I have no question in my mind, he will study that little piece of literature. He didn't quite know why I was telling him to do it, but he found out it worked, so he never stopped. He just kept doing it. That's the way it was with me. What you have to do is totally illogical. Logic stops most people. See, it was logic that stopped people trying to figure out how to fly. The Wright brothers were being totally illogical. You're going to find that logic stops most people. It's illogical to keep reading the same book over and over and over again relative to the way we've been trained. Well, if we've got it right, our results are always under construction. Always. We should forever be trying to improve. I don't care how good you get at it, you can get better. Better is a nice word. I love it. Doesn't matter how well you're doing, you can do better. Now, there's the question you got to ask yourself. Are you ready? Am I really ready? You see, when Ray gave me that book, I was ready. Now, if you had to ask me if I'm ready, I wouldn't have known. But I really wanted to change. I was so sick of living the way I was living. I wanted to change. I wanted to change all kinds of things. And as he told me, he said, you could change your environment. I didn't consciously and deliberately change who I was mixing with, but I automatically did. I started to mix with a totally different group of people. We're attracted to people that are much like ourselves. And if we want to change, we've got to start surrounding ourselves with the different people. Charlie Tremendous Jones was a great speaker, good man. God, I like that guy. He's gone now, but he said he used to phone, "Tremendous Bob, how are you?" And he was a wild man when he's speaking. He said we are the product of the books we read and the people we associate with. Simple rule, and he's right. Well, that's what you have to ask yourself, am I ready? Now, most people are extras in their own movie. They're extras in their own movie. They never permit themselves to see themselves being the star. Why? They're afraid people say they're being egotistic or they're being conceited. No. It's just, if that's where they want to go, that's where they should see. You've got to see yourself where you want to be. Goethe, a German philosopher, he put it very well. He said, before you can do something, you first must be it. We've got to get it really straight in our mind that whatever's going on outside is a reflection of what's been going on inside. If you keep having trouble out there, it's because you keep having trouble in here. Now, it seems illogical to see yourself very wealthy if you're in debt and broke. That doesn't make any sense. I started repeating, because I read it in a book, I think it was possibly Catherine Ponder's book, Dynamic Laws of Prosperity. I am so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantity in multiple sources on a continuous basis. I am so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantities in multiple sources on a continuous basis. I just kept saying that. And you know something? Money's coming in right now. I don't know where it's coming from, but it's coming. It's sent to an office somewhere and somebody else keeps track of it. You've got to buy into that. Now, if that's not so in your life, you say, well, it's not happening. Start to see it happening. You don't have to know how it's going to happen. You just have to know it's going to happen. Everything you think, you're creating. You're a creative being. And you've got to create it in your own mind. See, to most people, this sounds like woo-woo stuff and foolish and stupid. There's what you have to ask yourself, what do you really want? What do you really want? When I sat down with Phil, I said, what do you really want? He said, I want to earn more money. I said, I can show you how to earn more money. Now, this is so far-fetched to a person that doesn't even know me, doesn't know what I do. But somebody told me she should come see me. Is that all you want? No, he said, I want to win an Oscar. I can show you how to do that. I want to win an Emmy. I'll show you how to do that. Didn't matter what he said. I said, I can show you how to do it. Because it doesn't matter what it is, you get it the same way. It doesn't matter what business you're in, you get it the same way. You get it by law. There's law. The whole universe operates by law. When the tide goes out, it always comes back in. Winter never follows winter. These are expressions of the law. So you got to say, what do you really want? What do you really want? Do you know most people can't tell you what they really want? They don't know what they really want. They have never sat down and got super serious. What do you really want? Because when it starts to come to you, instantly we're thinking, how can we do it? And we forget it. I tell a story about sitting down with a couple, Pat and John. They worked for Sun Life Insurance Company, and I was a big contract with them when I was doing work. And they came and asked me one day, say, could we meet you for lunch or something? I said, okay. So I was sitting talking to them, and I talked to them for quite a while. And they were telling me how rough things were, and it was going in the wrong direction. So I listened to them for a little while. I said, what do you really want? They had no idea what they wanted. But I kept pressing them, what do you really want? Well, they were living in a basement apartment in somebody's house. They wanted to have their own house. I said, well, go and buy one. They said, we can't buy a house, we don't have any money. I said, you don't need any money. They said, what do you mean we don't need any money? I said, you haven't decided to buy a house. What the hell do you need the money for? Now that is so light you could easily pass that over. They didn't need the money because they hadn't made a decision to buy the house. If you make the decision to do it, we're going to talk about decision a little later. You'll see what it is, and it's totally different than most people think. Once you make the decision, you have already done it in your mind. You have flipped your mind onto a different frequency. You will then begin to attract to you whatever is required for the manifestation of what it is you've decided to do. See, that's what I did, so many years ago. Didn't understand, didn't have any idea what the hell I was doing, but I did it. And Ray got me to figure out what I wanted. He talked about it in here. In the preface of the book, he says there's a secret in this book. And if you can find the secret in the book, you can give anything you seriously want. No, I didn't believe that. But then he talked about all the people that endorsed it. And there's one person after another, real heavyweights like Henry Ford. You know? Thomas Edison. Big names. And he kept going, so he said, what do you really want? Now, I couldn't relate to those guys. How could I relate to them? That I didn't go to school and this and that. I was talking about why I couldn't. He said, why don't you forget why you can't? He said, you know, there was 2 months high school. You got 3 times as much formal education as Thomas Edison had. In grade 3, he was sent home with a note in a sealed envelope by the teacher. Told him that they didn't want him to come back to school because he didn't have what it took to understand anything that was being taught. His mother read the note and put it away, and she says, dear, they don't want you to go back. You're too advanced for them. You learn too fast. That's a true story. Now, you see, education isn't what we think it is. Education comes from the Latin educo, meaning to educe, to develop, or to draw out from within. Madame Montessori had it down pretty good. She said, we send kids to school as if they're an empty cup, and we expect the school to fill the cup. She's what they don't understand is the cup's already full. They have to teach them how to take it out of the cup. Everything you'll ever want, you've already got. The trick is to become aware of what you want. So Ray kept at me, what do you want? I said, all I wanted was some money. Everybody and his brother was phoning me for money. I owed everybody I could think of money. So I set a goal of having $25,000. I didn't believe that, but I wrote it on the card because he told me to do it. And I carried the card in my pocket. And he'd say, have you got your card? And I'd pull it, yeah, I got my card. He kept doing this. And I kept reading it. And I'll tell you what happened, and it's only in retrospect that I figured this out. I didn't know it at the time. By reading the card, I stopped thinking about debt. And I started to think about earning money. You say, well, weren't you thinking about that before? No, I was thinking about debt. My goal was to get out of debt. If your goal is to get out of debt, you're going to stay in debt forever, because whatever you think about, that's what you're going to attract. And I stopped thinking of debt, and I started to think of earning money, so I started to hear people talk about earning money. And I heard somebody say, there's good money cleaning floors. I said, I'm not plywood, I'll clean floors. I started to clean one office. I got $15 a time. I washed the floor twice a month. Then I got another one. I got $65 a month. So I'm up to $100. I was only earning $400 a month. Now I've got a 25% increase. Well, you know, in less than 5 years, I was cleaning offices in Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Cleveland, Atlanta, London, England. I had everybody listening to these records. And the money started to roll in, but I didn't understand what I had done. And I'll tell you something else. Something that I've learned a long time ago, most people that you know that are really successful, they cannot articulate on why they are. They're what you call an unconscious competent. They're very good, but they don't know why. Therefore, what they've got, they can't even give to their own kids. They don't know what they've got. They're unconscious. They're doing it right, but they don't understand that. They're in harmony with the law, but they don't understand that. I would go into companies, the top stars didn't know why there were stars. And I started to teach it. Like a rocket, results started to go up. I've worked with some of the largest companies in the world. All over the world. And it doesn't matter where you go, it's exactly the same, because people are exactly the same. They look different. We're different colors, different shapes, different sizes, they speak different languages. We are all exactly the same. The difference is only in appearance. We all have a marvelous mind, and the mind operates by law. We've got to gain an understanding of that. Well, I had that 25,000 so fast it would make your head spin, and way beyond that. But I still didn't understand what I had done. I was literally changing the paradigm, but didn't know what I was doing. It took me years to figure out what I was doing. Most people that do it right, they don't know what they're doing. Now, we pointed this out before. It's worth repeating. You can literally create your own economy. Now, I'm going to tell you, you do not have to know how it's going to happen. You only have to know it's going to happen. You want to stop and think what you want and take the lid off. Take the lid off your mind. You can have anything you want. And I'm going to tell you something else. You don't even have to believe it. You can say, this is a crock. If you keep doing what I tell you, you're going to start to believe it. I'll explain something now and I'll explain it later, and you may see it different a little later. Our belief system is based upon our evaluation of something. And frequently, if we reevaluate a situation, our belief about it will change. Now, I'd been studying the Bible. I'd studied various religions. There's only a half a dozen, so it's not too difficult. I had studied all kinds of books on personal development that you could find. And every one of them kept saying, you've got to believe. And I'm thinking, how do you believe? Somebody says, you've got to believe it. Well, how do you believe? That's a pretty good question, isn't it? How do you believe? Most people can't answer that. But they know if you don't believe it ain't going to happen. You got to believe it. And if you don't, you show it in everything you do. You got to believe it. I was trying to figure this out 9.5 years. I was in a coffee shop with a mentor, Leland Valvanderwall. And he said that, just in conversation. Our belief system is based upon our evaluation of something. And frequently, if we reevaluate a situation, our belief about it will change. I said, what did you just say? He said, what do you mean? I said, about belief. He said, our belief system is based upon our evaluation of something. And frequently, when we reevaluate the situation, our belief about it will change. And all of a sudden, I knew why I had changed. I spent all these years reevaluating who I was. I didn't know who the hell I was. I thought I was Bob. I'm not Bob. Bob is my name, but it's not me. Like, you never heard anybody say, I am Hand. You have a hand, but you're not Hand. And it was through the repetition of studying the same thing over and over and over again, I started to believe I could do different things. And of course, I would go out and I would do them. I would just go into another city and open an office. Never entered my mind that I wouldn't succeed. I remember I went to England. And I went in, I was rented about 2,000 square feet, and I went in to get furniture. The guy said, well, we'll have to check out your finances. What the hell are you talking about, check out my finances? I said, I could furnish this whole damn building. If you don't put it in, forget it, I'll get it somewhere else. We said, no, we'll put it in. I went to another place to get a business card. We'll have them for you in a fortnight. I said, what's a fortnight? He said, 2 weeks. I said, 2 weeks? I said, if it took you 2 weeks to make me a business card, I wouldn't be able to afford to pay for them. I said, I need these right now. I just got here. I need them. I had them right away. You got to know what you want and don't settle for anything but you want. Listen. You've got to see yourself with what you want. This is not a kid's game. This is your life. Quit screwing around with it. It's really fascinating as you get into it. It's so simple. It's so simple just to reject it. Say, got to be more to it than that. No, there isn't. No, there isn't. That's it. Now, we're going to explain more, but that's the bomb. That's the deal. You believe it? If you believe it, you got it. If you don't believe it, I don't give a damn how hard you work. You can bust your ass for the rest of your life. If you don't believe it, it ain't going to happen. You know people that work hard all their life. Look at the people in your industry. I mean, they're forever going to classes trying to learn how more. They're already great actors. They don't believe they're great actors. They just don't believe it. So it doesn't happen. You got to believe it. How do you believe it? Reevaluate. I'm God's highest form of creation. There's a great story that you taught me about Michelangelo. He's working on David. And his buddy has dropped by and they had lunch one day. And he says, you're really doing good on this. He said, yeah, well, thanks. He's spent a lot of work into it. Anyway, the buddy went away for 2 or 3 months, and he come back, so he drops back to see his old buddy Michelangelo. He said, I see you haven't done any more work on David. He said, what the hell are you talking about? Haven't done more work. I fixed his ears, both sides. I fixed the left side of that nostril, and the knuckles on every hand. Oh, wow, yeah. He said, they're trivial. It's just trivial. He said, maybe trivial, but trivials make perfection, and perfection is no trivial. You see? It's the little things, just little things, not a big thing. We gave out books in a seminar. I did one of these seminars. We have to write with your left hand, I don't know, a year ago. So I thought I should do that myself. We're asking other people to do it. So 3:30 this morning, I'm writing with my left hand. And it's the 253rd day that I've done it. And it's not a hell of a lot better than it was the first day. I mean, I haven't really got any better. You have a difficult time trying to decode what I've written, you know? But I know if I keep doing it, I'll be as proficient with this hand as I am with this hand, but I got to keep doing it. See, most people won't stay with something until they master it. And if you don't master it, you're not going to get paid a master's reward. It's so simple. Do you know most salespeople have got pathetic sales presentations? It's a wonder they sell anything. They call enough people and they find somebody that bought something from them, but they never sold anything, and they call themselves a salesperson. They're not selling at all. They don't understand what they're doing. The average person's sales presentation is pathetic. If you sell, I would recommend you have a prospect that you present to every day. They don't have to be there, and you keep making your presentation. You'll get so good, you'll be a crack shot. You'll never miss. I've worked with some of the greatest salesmen in the world. I'm a great salesman. I'm really a good salesman. I could sell you the paint off the wall if I thought it would help you. Well, I could. I'm that good. But not by accident. When I started, I was so quiet and shy, I was afraid to go and ask anybody to buy anything. And so I didn't sell very much. But I started to read books on selling. Great authors. I worked with Fred Herman, who was one of the greatest salespeople in the world. I was telling somebody a story about him. He was on the Mike Douglas show one time. Some of you are old enough to remember Mike Douglas at a TV show. And Fred's in there on the show, and it's on television, and this was quite a few years ago. And Mike said, "So I understand you're the greatest salesman in the world." Well, he said, "I don't know. That's what some people say." He said, "Well, sell me something." He said, "Well, what do you want me to sell you?" "Sell me that ashtray." I said, "Well, what would you want it for?" "Well, it's to bought me cigarettes in." "Oh. What would it be worth?" He said, "I don't know, 50 cents. He says, "It's yours." Fred was great. I started to read books on selling. And I started to do what they said. And you know what I learned? It took me quite a while to figure this out. Those great books, those great people, they have a lot of bad habits, but they didn't put any of them in the book. They just put good stuff in there that they knew worked. And so I started to do what these great teachers were teaching me. I didn't know what else to do because I was starting with nothing. And it worked. I phoned the vice president of sales with Prudential Insurance Company in Chicago. They have 10 territories. That was the #1 territory in the world. Mel Haycraft was the VP. I phoned him every Monday for a year. And one Monday I didn't phone. His secretary, Kathy, phoned me. They wanted to know if I was sick. That's when I got in. And we sold them. We did the whole company. Listen, if you want to sell, you've got to get really good, and you can create your own economy. But you can create your own economy at anything if you get really good at it. Make up your mind, whatever you do, you're going to master it. You're going to be so damn good at it. Now, I'm not much good at anything else. I'm very good at what I do, but I don't do anything else. This is all I do. I have no idea how to keep books. None. I would scare Sandy if I took something like that over. Mm-hmm. I know I just have to do what I love, and I'll get better at it. and I keep getting better at what I do. And you keep doing what you love doing. It makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, you don't have to be really smart to figure that out. It's so simple, isn't it? And you've got a stubborn streak in you as wide as this room. Hell, you wouldn't have a difficult time doing that. You're so left brain. But keep thinking. It's all about the mind. It's about your marvelous mind. This is so good. Now look at your spiritual DNA is perfect. It requires no modification. It requires no improvement. There's something in you that is perfect. There's perfection within you. Now, most people reject that in a hurry. They don't believe that they're perfect, but the truth is you are. You might not have brought it to the surface, but there is perfection within you. Go to any theologian, a real theologian. I'm not talking about the person with the Roman collar that passed a couple exams. I'm talking about a real theologian. They'll tell you, no, there's perfection within you. Your spiritual DNA, the essence of who you are, is perfect. Now listen, it's spirit. And get this, spirit operates in an orderly way by law. And spirit's always for expansion and fuller expression. So there's something in you that wants to express itself in a greater way. Doesn't matter what you're doing, you're going to want to do it better. If you're running, you want to run faster. If you're jumping, you want to jump higher. It doesn't matter what you're doing, you're going to want to do it better. That's the essence of who you are. Now, whether you do it better or not is another thing. Your wants come from this essence of who you are. It comes into your consciousness, want this. We don't want to get, we want to grow. As we grow, the rewards come with it. They're automatic. Earning money is a simple game. Once you learn it, you just keep following the rules, you're going to earn more of it. It's what you do with it that's going to make the difference. This is so basic and so misunderstood. Your spiritual DNA is perfect. It's all-knowing. Now we know that all the knowledge there ever was or ever will be is 100% evenly present in all places at the same time. All authorities made that very clear to us. It's all-knowing and it's all-powerful. All the power there ever was. You have read, or some of you have read, where there's a person trapped under a car and a very little man or a little woman lifts the car right off them. They're in a state of shock. Lift the car, and in that state of shock they can do whatever they want. Power just flowing through them. Afterwards they say, how'd you do that? And they'll say, I don't remember a thing. They don't know how they did it. Whatever you need is there when you need it. You don't get energy, you release energy. All the power there ever was or ever will be is evenly present in all places at the same time. So you don't get it, you release it. Desire is a triggering mechanism to release energy. If you haven't got any desire, you don't have any energy. You become very lethargic. And it's ever present. Doesn't matter where you are, it's there. It doesn't matter where you are. You can be in the air, you can be underwater. That power is there. Now, that is the real you. So you have to ask yourself, am I truly who I pretend to be? You know, there's some of you that want this so much because there's something that you want. And you think, God, if this would do it, this will do it. If you'll just lock into it. Just take my word. I mention Phil so often every now and then. He has done exactly what I suggest. I said, study this book, you'll study it. He phones with a problem. I said, no, it's not a problem. Don't even think about it anymore. And just one good thing after another happens to him. That's how I was winning. You see, when Ray gave me this book, He said, do exactly what I tell you. And he said, you can have anything you want. I don't know why, but I started to do exactly what he told me. And things started to happen so fast, and there were good things that I just kept doing it. Didn't matter what he would tell me, I would do it. I didn't understand why he would tell me to do it. I didn't understand what I was doing quite frequently. But he said, get this paper, study this, study that, do this, do that. Then I went to work with Earl Nightingale. I just did exactly what Earl said. I've had a few mentors. Then I met Van de Waal, met Dr. Roeder, Dr. Harry Roeder, and I would do exactly what these people would say. You should do this. If I was in a seminar and said they'd do that, I would do it. I would just start doing it. I didn't care if it cost me. I didn't care if I made mistakes. I would just do it exactly what they said. And things just kept getting better and better and better. I probably have, I don't know, maybe $150 in my pocket. And I don't have any credit cards on me. They're in the safe. I could go anywhere in the world with this, and I'd multiply it overnight. I could. I've done things like that. I know I can. Because you see, I know if you want more of this, you've got to earn it. No one makes money. The only people that make money are either in the mint or in jail or on their way, one or the other. Everybody else earns it. If you provide service, you can get money as a reward. I know how to do that. I go anywhere in the world. I've gone all over the world doing it. That's a universal law. If you want to win, you got to put it out. You put it out, and the universe will send it back. You've got to get this straight. When you start thinking you can't do something, what's on the screen, that is the real deal. Your spiritual DNA is perfect. That's the essence of who you are. Now, the paradigm is all this crap that's built on top of it. It's like virus code on top of it. And the perfection has trouble seeing the light of day. We got so much stuff on top of it. But if we say, I'm going to give this a whirl and understand there is perfection in there, and if you follow the rules, it'll grow. You will get better. You will get the reward. It happens. It happens just as sure as it's going to get dark tonight. We know it's going to get dark tonight. That's an expression of the law. The law is God's modus operandi. It's how everything happens. You don't have to wonder if you're going to have enough energy. You've got all the energy there is. No one's got more energy than anybody else. All the energy there ever was or ever will be is 100% evenly present in all places at the same time. All the knowledge is. You know how you figure it out. When you're ready, you'll get it. You got to see yourself with it. You got to stay in that frequency, and then when you're ready, you'll get it. You are a spiritual being. Cut it any way you want, that's what you are. You live in a physical body, but you're not a physical being. Now, what separates us, Spirit's omnipresent, so Spirit's in a garden rock. Spirit's in a tree. It's in the cup. Science calls it energy. Energy's omnipresent. This physical thing is what you live in. Now, here's what separates you from all the rest of life. You've been gifted with an intellect. That's the higher faculties that enable you to manipulate the energy. And that's what creation is. In truth, there's no such thing as creation as we know it. When you're creating, you're just causing one form of energy to move into another form of energy. You're taking what is and making it into something that wasn't. And we can do that. We have the ability to do that. We've got phenomenal faculties. We won't go into them all, but let's take perception. Let's suppose I got a problem and I'm trying to solve my problem. If I take the problem and I write it out on a piece of paper, and I put the paper in the center of the table, what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I'm 8. So there's 8 chairs here. I put my problem on paper, written out as clear as I can get it, and I look at it, And I say, now is that problem in me or is it on the paper? And I've got to mentally work with that until I get it out of me and get it on the paper. When I've got it on the paper, then I can be objective. And then Satan look at it and say, how can I change that situation? Then I might go and sit over there. And I'll let on Merrill Nightingale. I'll say, how would Earl look at this? I'd go sit over there and think, how would Henry Ford look at this? I'm going to go over here and how would Albert Schweitzer look at this? You start looking at it, what you're doing is you're changing your perception. Squirrels can't change their perception. Dogs can't change their perception. They don't have perception. They have instinct, which is perfect. We've got these higher faculties. Perception is one of them. If you change your perception, you've changed your world. Our dear friend Wayne Dyer put that very well. He said, when you change the way you look at something, what you look at changes. Some of you think, God, I never thought of that. Well, think about it. It makes sense, doesn't it? It's so simple, isn't it? But hell, I've never done that. I've wandered around with problems that drive me crazy. Probably great opportunities if you handle them properly. How about your intuition? Think of the times you've done things you know damn well you're not supposed to be doing. You know. You know. And you know. You do it anyway. You just go ahead. And later on you think, damn, I knew I shouldn't have done that. Little voice inside's talking to you and saying, don't go there. Don't go there. Don't go there. It's not in harmony. Don't do it. Don't do it. Damn, I did it. You've done that, haven't you? Yeah. You see, we want to start using these higher faculties because that's what separates us from all the rest of animal life. Now, it's how we use those intellectual factors that's going to dictate our emotional state. When we get emotionally upset, we're letting someone else's ideas go right into our subjective mind and in a crappy vibration. Well, she did this. She knows better. Why'd she do it? You should think, who the hell cares? I don't care, you did it. Go ahead. Do you know what she said? Couldn't care less. Start taking control of yourself. If you're emotionally upset, you're doing it to yourself. Nobody else can emotionally upset you without your permission. You do it to yourself. We've got to start to understand how our mind functions. We're spiritual beings living in a physical body. This thing is a magnificent instrument. My God, there's people studying the body all their life, brilliant people, and they still don't know all there is to know about it. They got all kinds of machinery now. They can take pictures of insides and outsides and those. We still don't really understand it. Think. If I'm a spiritual being and Spirit's omnipresent, there's part of me that's omnipresent. Well, that's too ridiculous. I mean, I'm not going to believe that. Okay, don't. You have the ability to choose. Reason is the faculty, it's a mental faculty. One of our intellectual faculties, reason. It gives us the ability to choose. I just choose not to believe that. That sounds silly. There's part of me that's everywhere. Isn't it strange sometimes you have a friend that lives in another city, another province, another state, another country, and you get a real strong vibration. You think, God, I should phone her, or I should phone him. And you do, and they say, God, I was just thinking of you. This stranger you phone. Is it? That's called thought transference. You're on that frequency. I had the pleasure of working with Edgar Mitchell, who's the captain of the lunar landing module on one of the Apollo flights. He was doing this, thought transference from the other side of the moon with Ford and Sherman here on Earth. From the other side of the moon. There's no time or space when you get into the mind. And you have a marvelous mind. So you see, the intellect feeds the subjective or the emotional mind. And when you do that, crazy stuff starts to happen. Now, I think all of you have got different thoughts running through your mind on this. I want you to share what you feel you've learned here just over the past half hour or so. Talk to the person beside you. What do they think? What are they thinking? How can you use this? How would you use what you've just heard? Can you think of areas you'd use it?
In every area.
In every area? Well, think of one in particular, Tracy. Pick one.
Probably believing in myself and not being afraid to take a risk.
Ah. You could go back 4, 5, 10 years, and you thought differently. You could have done, you didn't do it because you're probably kicking your butt now for not doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but we still do that then. We didn't learn from that, but we can learn from it. And so what if you do it and you fail? Who cares? You know, I often say, wouldn't it be terrible to be at the end of the road? Maybe tied in a wheelchair because we might fall out of it. Or in a cribbed bed. Our mind is sharp as a tack, it's just that the body's spent. And we're sitting there, we're reflecting on our own life. We're thinking, God, I wish I had done, I wonder what would happen if we had done that. And you go back and you've got nothing else to do but just reflect. I wonder what would happen if we had gone there, if we had moved there. What would have happened if I had sold that company? You know? Wouldn't that be a bitch? God, if only I had done it. Wouldn't it be better to reflect back? Kind of remember we doing this. You know, if you try something, if you lose big enough, it can be exhilarating. Well, not a little loss, a big one, a real big mother. And I mean, that can really wind your stem. It can. I have had some beautiful losses. Holy Dinah. We had the idea one time we were going to have a cruise. And we will sell tickets and get speakers to come on the cruise. And I'd never been on a cruise, and I thought it was kind of cool. So we did. And we earned about $100,000 and had a hell of a good time. Yeah, we should have got a bigger ship. Let's take over a whole ship. And we lost $2 million. Remember Murray Morrissey said, well, how did you handle that? I said, well, you know, we just lost it. It was gone. What the hell am I going to do? I don't want to go on cruises anymore. But I just wrote it off as it's a loss. You'll have those. And you might as well just write them off. I mean, there's no sense in crying over it. It's something you did. You say, I should have done this, I should have done that. You can't should have done anything. You could have quit should have on yourself, you see. Should have doesn't work. Talk about just what you picked here recently. Just in the last hour or so. How can you use this? How would you use it? Okay? Now, if you will carry these, don't look at them, just rub your thumb across them. Turn it over and rub your thumb on both sides. You'll notice one side is rough and the other is smooth. That's like life. There's two sides to life. The rough and the smooth. There's times when everything's just running smooth in life, and there's other times when it's a little rough. Well, let's take a look at it. React, and you lose control. React, and you lose control. I don't care what it is that happens. It could be another person. It could be a situation. It might be a flat tire. When you react to the person or the situation, you have lost control. That person or that situation is in control of you. You're reacting. Now on the other side, it's respond. respond, and you're in control. Same things happen, but you're not going to react to it. You've got a choice. That's when you start to use your higher faculties. You can say, well, that's difficult to do at times. Of course it is. Sometimes more than others. Especially if you're very close to the person. They can really know how to press your buttons, don't they? And you'll react automatically. You can get to the point where you're not. Was talking to Sandy's niece one time. This was a few years ago. And she and her mother were having a problem. Sandy said, will you talk to her? And I said, sure. I don't know what to say to her. Put her on the phone. So I got talking to her, and she was reacting to her mother, and of course her mother was reacting to her. And I said, listen. I said, it doesn't matter what happens, just look at it and say, I wonder what I can learn from this. I wonder what I can learn. You know, Viktor Frankl wrote a marvelous book, Man's Search for Meaning. Some of you are very familiar with it. Viktor Frankl was a Viennese psychiatrist, spent war years in a concentration camp, and he said regardless of the intellectual or physical abuse he was subjected to, no one could cause him to think something he didn't want to think. And he said in every situation, there is a space between the situation and how you handle it. The space may be a millisecond, but in that millisecond, you decide how you're going to deal with it. Such a great lesson. Now, you know someone that can really get to you in a hurry. They just trigger you and you react. You know who it is. There could be more than one person. Make up your mind you're going to use this on them. Or there might be a situation. You could call back, but that's the end of it. It could be a situation. And you make up your mind, I'm not going to let anything going on, I don't care if it's a person or a thing, I'm going to learn to be in control of me. Now, this isn't going to happen fast. It's not going to happen overnight. You will do it and realize you've reacted. I'll tell you how it works. I use it as an example. When I was a kid, I would always say, are yous coming? And a friend of mine, his mother, was forever correcting me, Mrs. Gregory. She'd say, Bob, it's not yous, it's you. And I thought, she doesn't know what the hell she's saying. There's more than one of them. Why would it be you? You know? I mean, that was my logic. And she just kept, every time I'd say, are yous coming? Bob, it's not yous, it's you. She drove me crazy for a while. But you know something? Then I'd hear other people say, are you coming? And when I said, are yous coming? I'd be aware I said it. It felt very right to me because it was a habit. And then I'd go to say it and I'd stop myself and I'd say, are you coming? That felt very uncomfortable. And you know something? I changed it. That was a habitual thing. Well, that's the way this works. You react to situations or a person, you're probably going to keep reacting. But when you do, you're aware you did. You say, damn, I was going to do that. And then you'll get to a point where you go to react and you'll stop yourself. This little coin will help you. It's really a good idea. Okay? Now there's another one there. We'll talk about that after lunch. This is so cool. You carry it loose in your pocket and you touch the rough side, react. You react and you lose. When you react, you have let someone or something else take control over you. When you respond, same situation happened, but you're not going to let it get to you. Now, I had a situation since I got here. It was a pretty big one. And it started to bother me. It started to take control, and I had to stop. I stopped. I mentally worked and I stopped. And I thought, there's a reason this happened. I lost something valuable, and I thought, there's a reason why this happened. There's a lesson in this for me. And I'm still mentally reacting to it, and I stopped myself. It took me about an hour, but it doesn't bother me now. I always figure everything's in the place where it's supposed to be. So wherever it went, that's where it was supposed to go. This will help you do that. It's a simple concept, but it works like unadulterated magic. But you got to practice it. Now,